Welcome to today's explainer. We are going to unpack a truly fascinating paradox of the modern age. We're diving into the art of becoming dangerously self-educated. Just think about this for a second. We are living in a complete historical anomaly. The entire wealth of human history, complex sciences, art, engineering, it is literally sitting right in our pockets. We can pull up quantum mechanics lectures or deep philosophical texts while we're just standing in line for coffee. Yet, despite this infinite access, there is this massive, glaring disconnect between what is actually available to us and what we actually learn. We have more access to knowledge right now than any generation in human history. That is an undeniable fact. But it brings up a really critical realization. Raw information is no longer the bottleneck for learning. Think about how it used to be just a few decades ago. If you wanted to learn a complex subject, finding the info was actually the hard part. You had to physically trek to a university library, track down some out-of-print book, or hunt down an expert who was willing to give you the time of day. The primary barrier was just access. Today, that barrier is entirely gone. The information is absolutely everywhere, literally screaming for our attention 24/7. Which leads us to ask this incredibly provocative question. So, why are so few people actually self-educated? If the information is right there at our fingertips, why aren't we all walking polymaths? Why isn't everyone a master of 4 languages, a top-tier coder, and an amateur physicist? Well, the answer is that information simply isn't the bottleneck anymore. Understanding is. Taking raw data, raw text, or raw video and turning it into actual, deep, internalized understanding, that is the rare skill. The people who can consistently bridge that gap, who take the raw material and synthesize it, are the ones who can teach themselves absolutely anything. And there is a very specific, deliberate way they do this. To get there, the source material outlines an exact 4-part framework. 1. Try before you learn. 2. Create to discover. 3. Go upstream for truth. And 4. Embrace the boredom. Let's dive right in. Okay, part 1, try before you learn. This first step is a major paradigm shift. It completely challenges literally everything traditional schooling ever taught us about how we acquire new skills. The traditional school method tells us to learn first and practice later. We're taught for years to sit quietly, passively absorb theory, memorize the textbook, and maybe eventually, way down the line, actually apply it to the real world. But the self-educated method, it operates in complete reverse. You try first, you inevitably get stuck, and then you learn exactly what you need. It sounds entirely backwards to how we were raised, but this active, struggle-based approach is how real neurological pathways are built. It completely shifts you from being a passive receiver of facts into an active problem solver. Let's look at how this works in practice with a great example from the source material, learning to edit video. Now, most beginners will sit there and spend hours passively watching tutorials on keyboard shortcuts and theory before they ever even open a real project file. It feels productive, right? But it's an illusion. Someone using the self-educated method jumps straight to step 1 and tries editing a real video right out of the gate. And immediately they hit step 2. They run into real, frustrating problems. The pacing feels sluggish, the audio cuts feel incredibly awkward, or maybe they get totally lost trying to color correct a dark shot. And that frustration, that exact moment of getting stuck is the secret ingredient. Because it naturally leads to step 3. They now have highly specific questions. Instead of vaguely wondering, hey, how do I edit? They are specifically searching for how to smooth out J-cuts. Specific questions lead to useful, targeted answers. Every high-level skill works this exact way. The struggle itself acts as a compass, telling you exactly what you need to learn next. All right, moving on to part 2, create to discover. This section completely flips the script on why self-educated people are always producing things. If you study genuinely self-educated individuals throughout history, you'll see they leave a massive trail of evidence everywhere. Charles Darwin filled notebook after notebook with rough sketches and messy observations for years, long before On the Origin of Species was ever a polished thought. The brilliant physicist Richard Feynman famously covered hundreds of pages with diagrams, scratchings, and explanations that were literally never even meant for anyone else to read. And we see this exact same pattern today. Programmers who are learning in public push broken code through GitHub commits. Aspiring designers constantly update raw portfolios. Writers publish messy newsletters. Most of us just assume that creating something is proof that you've already mastered a topic, right? We think you write the essay after you perfectly understand the book. But the reality is the exact opposite. Creating is actually the process of discovering what you don't know yet. This brings us to a really powerful idea. A blank page is often a better teacher than another book. The very second you sit down and try explaining a complex idea to someone else, or try to put your thoughts down onto a stark, empty page, your brain is forced to immediately expose every single hole in your own understanding. When you're just passively reading, it's so incredibly easy to nod along and think, yeah, I get this. But you can't hide behind someone else's eloquent words anymore when you have to produce it yourself. You have to synthesize the info, connect the dots, and build the structure totally from scratch. Next up, part 3. Go upstream for truth. We really need a crucial warning here about how we consume information in the digital age and the dangerous degradation of modern online content. Just imagine the life cycle of an idea on the internet right now. Someone spends 5 years researching and writing a deep original source book, which drops on day 1. By day 30, another person has quickly skimmed it and written a 10-page summary of that book. By day 60, a YouTuber has made a slick, highly edited 10-minute video summarizing that written summary. And by day 90, someone has chopped that YouTube video into a 30-second TikTok with a mobile game playing in the background. The source material puts this incredibly bluntly. By the time the core idea reaches you at the very end of this pipeline, it has become intellectual shit. It is literally a summary of a summary of a summary. All the nuance, all of the rich context, and the foundational logic are entirely gone. Knowing the difference between downstream and upstream learning is absolutely vital. Downstream learning is trying to learn complex value investing entirely from 15-second motivational clips featuring pumping music. Or it's trying to grasp deep, nuanced human psychology through inspirational quotes on a sunset background. It feels like learning, but it's just intellectual fast food. The people who are self-educating at a serious, dangerous level, they go upstream. If they want to learn investing, they skip the finance influencers entirely and read Warren Buffett's actual original shareholder letters. If they're trying to understand a psychological concept, they don't watch the fifth reaction video referencing it, they dig up the original scientific experiment and read the raw methodology. Yes, going upstream is significantly slower, for sure. It is much harder to read a dry scientific paper than it is to watch a flashy summary. But it is the only way to develop your own critical judgment, rather than running your entire worldview on other people's filtered, watered-down conclusions. And finally, part 4, embrace the boredom. This is perhaps the most uncomfortable phase of the entire journey. Because here's the truth. Your brain isn't a search engine. Here is the weird, difficult reality about building profound understanding. It often feels like absolutely nothing is happening. You might read the exact same dense paragraph 3 times in a row and still not get it. You might stare blankly at a complex diagram for 20 minutes. You might have to walk away and just pace the room in total silence. And then, completely out of nowhere, it suddenly clicks. But in our modern world, we've been conditioned to hate this feeling. The exact second something feels difficult, boring, or slightly frustrating, what is our immediate instinct? We grab our phones, we check our notifications, we look for a YouTube video with an easier explanation. We desperately seek an immediate dopamine hit to escape the friction. But we have to remember, the human brain doesn't instantly query results like a computer server. It needs empty space, time, and boredom to process and actually connect the dots. True neurological reorganization requires uninterrupted time. There is a very real physiological reason why elite mathematicians will spend hours just staring in complete, maddening silence at a single equation on a chalkboard. It's why grandmaster chess players can sit completely still, analyzing one single board position for an entire afternoon, running through hundreds of invisible variations in their minds. They aren't looking for a quick fix, and they certainly aren't looking for someone else to just hand them the answer. They are intentionally sitting in the difficulty. They are enduring the intense, silent frustration because they know that the profound breakthrough usually arrives only after you've survived boredom. Which leaves us with this final, vital question to ponder. Are you willing to survive the boredom to let the breakthrough arrive? Because becoming dangerously self-educated means making some hard choices. It means ditching the passive tutorials that trick you into feeling productive. It means stepping entirely away from the endless stream of downstream summaries. It means intentionally getting your hands dirty, failing early to find your blind spots, and ultimately embracing the profound, quiet struggle of deep work. It is certainly not the easy path in a world obsessed with shortcuts, but it is the only path to true, undeniable understanding. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I challenge you to go upstream, embrace the difficulty, and start creating today.